on the back of a trailer. Things like that. That's the focus of RTMS. Everything that matters, and it's like a pivot. The driver is the pivot. Everything around that company is about the driver being in a position where he or she is in a safe truck, a roadworthy truck, with a load that is not overloaded or underloaded, because it is also about efficiencies. Right here. Let's go to the next slide. And I know this camera thing's going to be painful. So those are examples, and I must show you that photo over there is actually courtesy of Mr. Patrick O'Leary from Freeport. That truck was on the road. On the road. Yeah, boy. Yes. So that's what's on our roads. It was terrible. I mean, the trailer, gosh, it had nothing. The tires were smooth. Pat, remember that one? It was almost like a pregnant truck, hey? Shame. Bursting at the seams, but not a good thing at all. Yeah. But that wasn't a good example. And that one, do you remember this one, the Lucy? Remember that caused a big crash here on the R59? How many people passed away from there? I think 3 or 4 persons injured. And it was a pile up for almost 12 hours. Was a pile up. The whole day, 100%, just that. And you know what? In each instance, not functioning brakes, no roadworthiness, no certificate of fitness, license isn't up to date. The driver gets put into a truck. Some drivers are given a truck. Remember that one we pulled off with a spanner? That was the steering wheel. Do you remember? We also pulled off some trucks it was cooking in the truck. And the truck was moving. He was cooking. Yeah. So anyway, so what we are saying is industry is stepping up. Let me show you some more photos. Okay, that is the Road Traffic Safety Management System 39001. There's only one company that has adopted 39001. Only one. And that was Autopax. And those buses are really running today. Okay. So that standard was developed a long time as an ISO standard, so it's an industry standard. I'm actually on a working group with the ISO to develop it. But that is an indicator of something that has not been adopted by the industry. Who's supposed to promote that? Well, we've started promoting it. Go to the next slide. That's an example of what an RTMS certified truck looks like. But it's even more special. It's not just RTMS. What was the word outside? I'm going to read it. It said something about disruptive driver training. What's your motto? Disruptive driver training technology. have to share the road in harmony. How do you do that? That you show every person takes responsibility. It's not RTMC's job to make sure that everybody operates in a safe way. It's their job to lead, yes. And there's the Road Traffic Enforcement Agency to enforce. Together. Who is that? Who is that lady handing over the RTMS certificate? I'll tell you who that is. She's now again Deputy Minister of Transport, Sindisiwe Chakunka. So that is one of our operators, NBC Ngulula Bulk Carriers. It was the largest black-owned side tipper operation in the country. Didn't quite work out that way. That's the thing about industry and transport. Well, things change, and you have to change with it. Otherwise, things change in your own business. That is a certificate being handed over by the Minister, so the Deputy Minister of Transport subscribes and supports the concept of self-regulation. Next slide. Look at the next slide. That is some of the RTMS TERCO members. We've got their industry is amongst that. We've got insurance companies, transport operators. That's all part of it. And you see that lovely that little badge we're wearing? What does it mean, the little yellow badge? You in Decade of Action. Okay, well the decade's been gone. We've now extended it. So when our wonderful previous woman, Minister of Transport, Duper Peters, let me tell you something about Duper Peters. She ensured that some of the most challenging legislation, the most important legislation was implemented in South Africa. The 22nd Amendment, Regulation 338D. What is that? That is around operators, consignors, consignees, being accountable for overloading and for safe vehicles. The days of the consignor saying, well, there's my load, you loaded, I don't care if you overloaded. Not anymore. Everyone has to work together, has to pull together. And that is why RTMS is so important, because the standard provides for operators and consignors and consignees to go through and to work cohesively so that they all get tested. It's an external audit. They put up their hand, they say, test us. We are adopting a self-regulation standard. That's what's important. So, there's another example, and you see we gave that to the Minister. It's a little steering wheel, because it speaks to the three pillars of what we're trying to do. Industry, government, operators, pulling together, making things possible, making it work. Right, next slide. Those are some of the success stories. I'm not going to delve into them, but that is a company. That's how our case studies work. Each one of our case studies has something like that. 50% reduction, there are none. There are no other case studies other than what the RTMS TERCO and the customers and the operators have put together. That can show you that. That can show you that. Real, tangible differences. That is but one. Let me go to the next slide. There is another. Oh, look who's there. My favorite Minister of Transport, Duper Peters. See the commitment from the Department of Transport. Duper arrived there, I think, with 2 security guards and not a big entourage of media and blah, blah, blah. She just got the job done. Her focus was, boom, supporting industry to adopt self-regulation standards. To put up their hand, it costs more. But it actually costs less throughout time, because you lose less drivers, you have less crashes, you have safer drivers on the road. Anyway, that is the Golden Arrow Bus Services getting their certificate from the RTMS. Do you know there's only one government department that has implemented RTMS? In the Western Cape. They used to be called the Electricity Department, they're now the Energy Department, yeah, they've adopted, but all the ISO standards, because they make sure that they render a service safely, reliably, taking account of all the other operators. Am I finishing? Must I finish almost. No. All right. Yeah, so you guys looking at each other. Okay. All righty. So that's
when we start clapping, then you
okay. Right. There is another case study. We have many. We have over 280 case studies that provides evidence that by implementing a self-regulation standard, and it's a journey, that they have reduced overloading, they've reduced crashes, less vehicles that are overloaded at the RTI. So industry checks us, we check ourselves, so do the lead agencies, so does government from an enforcement point
point of view, but we are saying, if there are 600,000 trucks on the road, and there are how many traffic officials? 19,000? You cannot check every truck every day. So pick the ones that look bad, like that pregnant truck we saw earlier on, terrible, overloaded, unroadworthy, not healthy. And by the way, that truck had travelled all the way from Botswana, from the border, and that was in Krugersdorp. So you're telling me it missed how many weighbridges along the way? Plenty. How many traffic officials saw? Plenty. And they waved around. Boom, go, overloaded, move, unsafe, no brakes. So there we go. So it's part of the challenge is that not everybody has got this culture of compliance. Not everybody cares. But we do as industry, we've stepped up. Okay. So I'm not going to go through everything. I just want to show you it's there. And the presentation will be on your website. You're welcome. There we go. See, I did speak about it. It's the only government that's adopted RTMS. There's not even one that's taken ISO 39001 on board. But it's been here for many moons. Longer than that, since 395. Okay, but the big takeaway is driver behavior was changed. They even operate specialized cherry pickers. Less than 60% of the persons who are supposed to operate the cherry picker, you know when you use the boom 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 and it goes out and you fix the lights? Less than 60% could operate it safely with training. Now they are. Go for the next slide. They're more than 90%, 92% compliance. This is just, I will not stay long, but bottom line is the green tick tells you that when they didn't have all the vehicles serviced and maintained, they're now sitting with them at almost 100%, 98, 99%. That's the journey of RTMS. You have to check. Do you have systems? Do you have protocols in place? Do you understand what vehicle replacement is? Or do you run your vehicles into the ground? Because remember, you can do that if you like, but then just don't have them on public roads. If they're not roadworthy, if they are unsafe, if a driver isn't training, if a driver isn't healthy. Next slide. Okay, so fuel consumption improved, so that's an economic benefit. Next slide. That is Barloworld, so it's a little bit of a dated slide, but it's the principle. Again, you can see all of their operations went from a journey of where they didn't have all the compliance, everything in place, to the outcome. So whether it's a big company or like a Sunshine Bennett from Africa Link, same outcome. Focus is it right? Do you measure it? Can you manage it? Can you mitigate risk? And then, can you control it throughout? Yes, you can with RTMS because it's a systematic process. Every day there's a pre-trip inspection. And every day you make sure fatigue management for drivers. What are one of the leading causes of crashes? Pietro? Fatigue. Okay, at the moment it's a little bit more than fatigue. If you're on the highway at a certain time of the night, you're probably going to get a Molotov or ITZY or brick through the windscreen. Different times, but you have to still be safe. Fact is, RTMS provides for that. You must run, sir, Mr. Trivio, a risk route assessment. So if you know at certain places, at certain days, we must be alert, we must not forget about what's happening, then don't let your trucks be on the road that time of the night. Stop them. Yeah. Maybe park them off at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at a safe truck stop. And maybe they can start driving 4 or 5 o'clock from a safe truck stop if they have to. Remember, trucks move. So I'll think about trucks. Okay. Right, next slide.
Companies are implementing it, by the way.
Yes.
Like Skynet Logistics.
Yes, many are. Many are. So that is just a short, brief overview of, and you can see it's dated. Because how many certified operators? Now more than 280. So the short version of what I wanted to share with you today is that it's all of our responsibility. We'll work nicely with you. So I've been to many of your programs that you run with the scholars, you know. They develop the whole safety campaign, they do the presentations, remember?
Road safety participation program.
Yeah. For the RTMC. Is Anisha still there one day?
She is online.
Okay. Oh, so she is online. Okay. Well, she can hear me online. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. So what I wanted to share with you today was to talk about some things that you were saying, yes, and some things that you were saying were shown where. It's very exciting, and we want to help you to make sure that your traffic officials know exactly how to do it at the side of the road, to check those trailers, to make sure that there's enough brakes, linings, to make sure there ain't a gap so it can brake effectively. But I think that the reality is that we have a common duty. Government is supportive, industry stepped up, taking the challenge. We make sure we promote road safety. Okay, bank or anyone who's set up on finance. Imagine if you go to them and say, listen, I know about this standard, I work for this company, I understand payload, I've done my costings, I know what fixed costs are, I know what variable costs are. Then you'll go to, oh, okay, this person knows. If you want to buy a truck, it's not about the truck. When you buy a McD's to flip a burger, you want to buy a truck. You've got to have some industry knowledge, some experience, some research. Know what your fixed costs are. Don't just try and get a tender to move gold. And you're running at $80 a ton. And you've got to do 20 kilometers. And you're only going to be able to load one trip because of the congestion at the power station with the coal. Because you remember, to get to the coal station, you've got to weigh empty. You've got to go across the weigh bridge. Then you've got to go to a load. Then you've got to go to another weigh bridge. And you've got to load full. And then you've got to put the top on. And then hopefully there's not a queue of 20 or 30,000 trucks ahead of you. Do your homework. From an industry point of view, this is a little bit of extra information. Because you can see I work for the bank, I'm supposed to finance. Obviously road safety is important. But those are the important things. But don't you want to buy a truck and a trailer? Because you want that. It looks great. You see a wonderful truck and they're beautiful. Trucks are beautiful. My favorite truck is a Scania R500. If I had a company truck, it'll be a Scania R500. But I won't want to get into Baker Street, to Rosebank, to Martha Street. It's not going to go underneath. Maybe outside. That's going to happen. Short version is, if you want to be involved in this industry, know it, understand it, research it. I'm going to leave 6 words for you to think about. Read. Ask. That means you can read about the industry, ask lots of people, build your networks, understand the industry, know what fixed costs are. What are fixed costs? Give me 3 elements of fixed costs that I'll give it to you. It'll be your financing costs, it'll be your insurance costs, okay? It'll be your driver's costs, it'll be your permit costs, your IF costs, license fee costs, all your fixed costs. You cannot run a truck-trailer combination if you are not at least maybe 350K a month. Do your numbers. Tell me here, do your numbers.
I'm just worried, do you ever breathe?
This is a magical industry. I hope you invite me for another one. Because we want to bring you lots of information. I've got free booklets. We've got an Artemis booklet. You go on the Fleetwatch website. There's an Artemis booklet. There's the A to Z of transport. There's operating benchmarks. There is the gym, your truck, your gym booklet. Oh my word, there's so much information. Read, ask. And then 3 more words, think.
Yes.
Thank you everybody. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't have to this, sorry about that.
Thank you.
We're going to show you how to check for a truck.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kathy. TIA for 6 years, and her key responsibilities are being the stakeholder management, and she is responsible also for managing all ARTO implementing stakeholders. So let's welcome Venda. Thank you.
Thank you.
This one.
Are you going to operate for me?
Yes, yes, of course.
I'm not going to move around a lot, like, but I prefer to, stand like this. Yeah, so, yes, my name is Venda Mamabulo. Oh, okay. My name is Venda Mamabulo. I'm from the Road Traffic Infringement Agency. And as Mariana said, I've come with a lot of experience from law enforcement. Myself and Cindy, we first met when we were in law enforcement. And yeah, it was a bit difficult for me to just capture the theme of being a woman in transport. So I think she struggled a lot. She tried to kick it out of me, but it was difficult. So myself and Cindy, when we were talking, she just said, maybe we must just talk about the lemon, As women, more especially coming from a law enforcement background, you are like a lemon. But remember, a lemon produces nice things. It might be sour, but if you want a nice figure, you are encouraged to drink lemon water, and then they say you can use it on your skin and so on and so forth. So that's us women in transport. We are a bit bitter, but because we have to show force in this industry that is so male dominated. So yes, that's me. So after all that has been said and done, Cindy's 21st century cadres, when they go out on the road, they do law enforcement, they need a proper support when they have done law enforcement. So that's where the implementation of ARTO comes in. As Mariana said, I'm responsible for ARTO implementation countrywide, and I've been to all the corners of South Africa. Where there's a traffic department, where there's a traffic cop, I've been there because I want them to implement ARTO. And that day is coming soon. The 1st of October, we will do the first few municipalities. 1st January, we go full force with ARTO. So yeah, without wasting time, okay. So I'm not gonna talk to each and every slide. I'm told that you will be able to have access to the material, so I've put a little bit more on the presentation so that when you read on your own, you will also gain some insight. So just can we just go to the next slide? So usually when I talk to people, I need to explain myself first to say, who is RTIA? So firstly, ARTO is adjudication of road traffic offences, administrative adjudication of road traffic offences, and it's an act number 46 of 1998. This act has been sitting on the shelf since 1998. It's 20 years later, 20-something years later. But I'm patting myself on my back to say I joined RTIA and I'm making sure that ARTO is implemented nationally. So the Act, Section 2 of the Act establishes this agency. So we assist the agencies with your RTMC, SANRAL, RAF. So a lot of people think that I'm RTMS, I'm private entity. No. We are an entity of government, and we are mandated to oversee the full implementation of ARTO countrywide. Next slide. So this is just the layout of what the Act establishes, the agency, administrative adjudication of road traffic offences. So what this means is that we're going to decriminalize road traffic contraventions and deal with them administratively. So, and also establishment of point demerit system. We want to ensure that people's behaviors are changing. So if you know that your license is going to be demerited, you would rather comply. And then also in the Amendment Act, we now introducing rehabilitation programs. So if you are identified as a habitual offender, you will have to go through rehabilitation programs. But of course, it's after you've incurred demerit points, exceeded the threshold, and your license is suspended, and eventually get cancelled, then you will have to go through rehabilitation programs. And also, we are introducing an appeals tribunal. So if you want to complain, you want your notice to be cancelled, you must write down and say the first step is that you submit first at RTIA. We've got adjudicators say that they don't agree with your reasons, or when they investigate, they make your application unsuccessful. You can go to an appeals tribunal and they can hear your story, and they can also decide. Maybe they can come up with a different outcome from what the adjudicator has initially said. But it will still be an administrative process. You complete a form, you submit, and then you wait for the results. Our mission is to have a safer, safe road user community, and our mission is to encourage compliance with road traffic laws throughout the country, and we're going to do that through procedurally fair, reasonable, and lawful administrative process. Why we want to implement ARTO? Some of the challenges that we've identified within the fraternity is that, say you go, like myself, I travel across the country, so I get a fine in Cape Town. I come back to Johannesburg, I need to pay for that fine. The systems are not talking to each other, so with ARTO we're bringing a central system that will make it easy for you to go and settle your infringement at the nearest issuing authority. You don't need to go back to Cape Town. You can just go to Johannesburg or to Tshwane to go and settle your fine. And then another thing is that, then we end up saying people are getting away with offenses and there is no consequences when they are coming from different jurisdictions. And there is also a challenge with the courts. The workload is too high, and we expect them to also attend to this long list of traffic cases. So one of the reasons we don't going to deal with this administratively is because we want to relieve the courts of the burden, so that they can focus on the more serious ones where your drunken driving, reckless driving, and so on and so forth. So those will still go to courts. But where a notice is written when you refuse to put on your own safety belt, then that process will be dealt with administratively. And as I've indicated, habitual offenders actually act with impunity, but that's why we are introducing rehabilitation programs. And I always give this example to say, if I have a lot of money, I own all these speeding cars, so if I have a lot of speeding infringements, I can easily go walk into an issuing authority and say, how much do I owe you? They say 10,000, I say bring the machine, I swipe. My attitude is not changing towards road safety. So the main reason is that we want to change the attitude towards road safety. I think that's my next slide. I'll just highlight a few that we want to encourage voluntary compliance. We want to also simplify adjudication of road traffic offences, and also establish an effective and expeditious process for dealing with road traffic offences, but also alleviate the balance from the courts, as I have indicated. Next slide. So these are some of the notices. This is just the notices that will be issued under ARTO. The naming conventions is just going to change. From section 56, you get a ARTO 1. So it's just the explanation of the notices that you will receive under ARTO. Next slide. So this is the process, how it will unfold once you receive an infringement notice. So with ARTO, within 96 days, you know that your notice has reached the ceiling. So within the first 32 days, you can qualify to pay a 50% discount. You can nominate a driver in a case where you have a fleet. Patrick works with fleet. So we can now nominate the person that was driving instead of as the registered owner of the vehicle taking the burden. So there's a form that you just complete, you submit, then the notice is removed from your name into the person that actually committed that offense. So, and then you can also complete a form called representation if you want to dispute the fine, but you state the reasons why. It must be valid reasons why you broke the law and you want the notice to be withdrawn. Or you can arrange to pay in installments, provided it's above 750. But if you choose this option of paying in installments, you then forfeit your 50% discount. And then with the current act, we still have election to be tried in court. So until the new act is proclaimed, you can still elect to be tried in court, and but the disadvantage of you choosing this is that you are requesting to have a criminal record, because once the court finds you guilty, it means now you must get a criminal record. So after the first 32 days, the RTIA will issue a courtesy letter, which is a friendly reminder to say you committed this offense, please go and pay. The notice goes back to the original amount, but you can still do a representation, you can still elect him tried in court, or you can pay in installments. After another 32 days, then we issue an enforcement order, which will now be blocking you on notice. So you will not be able to transact until you have attended to your infringement notice. So at this stage, there's a form called Article 14. You put the reasons why the enforcement order must be revoked, or you just settle the notice. So yeah, this is some of the information that you'll just go through on your own. It's just the difference between ARTO and the criminal procedure. So it will actually assist you to get enlightened on the actual differences. And as I've said, you know, under criminal procedure, a person does not have to, unless you're arrested and then you're found guilty and they say they're sentencing you. But with ARTO, we want to ensure that we change your behavior. That's why the introduction of rehabilitation programs. Next. This is just a sample of the charges in the National Road Traffic Act. We have got more than 2,000 contraventions that are recorded, but so they will be classified as infringements or offenses. So anything that is an infringement will be dealt with administratively. Anything that is an offense will be dealt with under criminal procedure process. Next slide. This is just a sample of the charge sheet. So this also is just a slide that's talking to operators to say that you can nominate a person that was driving, and if you give a person an unroadworthy vehicle, the system will generate a notice for the operator card, and this is how then the operator card will incur demerit points. So also the operator card will actually incur demerit points. And I think in my next slide, Mariana. Oh, okay. So also this slide is just talking to access for your proxies. You can apply to have access to the system. So you will be receiving your notices electronically, and you can also exercise those elective options that I spoke about electronically, and you can also do your nominations of the driver electronically, and you can also pay in bulk for your notices. You just pay the bulk amount, you send us the spreadsheet, and then we just update for you. Okay. So this is just the process of nomination. The next 3 slides, just pass them. It's just for information. So, and also I've just outlined the appeals tribunal, that it will have a jurisdiction across the country. So there will not be a appeals tribunal for a specific province or for a specific area. So you submit at a central point, and then the information is sent to the appeals tribunal to be dealt with. So this slide is just talking to the promulgation processes that we are still undergoing. So we have now prepared a memo through the department that is going to be signed off by the president, so that he can give us a proclamation for the national rollout of ARTO. Next one. So these are the role players within the ARTO space. I'm not going to go through that. And these are the payment platforms that are available, so you can go and pay for your notices anywhere in the country. So in the next 3 slides, the next slide is just the explanation that I've already spoken about, to say we will be implementing ARTO in phases. So the first phase started from the 1st of July up to the end of September. We are busy with your public education, busy with the final preparations of the areas that must implement on the 1st of October. And also the second phase, we're now going to implement ARTO in all the provinces. In each district, we've just taken one municipal area, but come January, that will be our third phase. All the municipal areas will then come on board. So the demerit points will only be implemented in July, once all the issuing authorities have come on board and have implemented ARTO. Then from the 1st of July 2022, we will be now implementing the demerit points. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. And our last speaker, Claire Bale is the first female driver to participate in the Super Drift series. After moving between circuit racing and drifting during the 2012 season, she is now focusing on a national drifting. Off circuit, Claire is a director of the Truckman in Boksburg and dealers in used trucks and trailers. She has taken on the Andandik Cheetah Center, the Wild, as a personal cause, and is a past president of the MSA, Motorsport South African Women in Motorsport panel, and she has been nominated twice for the Colin Watling Award for service to motorsports. So let's welcome Claire. Please run us this clear. Yes, of course.
To change the slide?
Yes, just this and this, but I can change it for you. Would you like me to put the video?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. 6.
Good morning, everyone. I just thought I'd start out with an example of reckless driving, how not to when you're on the road. Thank you to TMI and Drivio for inviting me here today. It's incredibly inspiring to be here and listen to so many movers and shakers that are female in our industry. So it's very exciting, and I think we all feel that same excitement listening to people. And I'm really glad I don't have to follow Kathy today. That's a hard act to follow. Cars and driving have always been my passion. Although my parents were not at all interested in cars or motorsport or anything like that. When I was little, I used to spend all my pocket money on Matchbox cars and draw pictures of, very detailed pictures of cars with exhausts and racing stripes. And I think it was in my genes, because my great uncle, how do I get to the slide? My great uncle John Duff won the 1924 24 Hours of Le Mans in a Bentley. So I think it missed a generation or two, and somehow I got all that passion for motorsport and cars. Okay, thanks. He's a tall guy at the end. And he was always a huge inspiration to me. He not only won Le Mans, he raced in the Indy 500, held lots of speed records at Brooklands in the UK, and he was in fact recently inducted into the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame. So yeah, he's always been a big inspiration to me, and he was quite a character. Although I never actually raced, my cars and trucks and so on have always been a huge part of my life. I started out working for BMW in the new car division, and actually met my husband Don when I sold him a car. So cars in general have always had quite a big impact on my life. Don was a director of MA Truck and Bus when I met him, and he was also involved in off-road racing. And between the two of us, we've just been involved in the heavy truck industry ever since. We had a new truck franchise we had 2 new truck franchises in Cape Town. We had an MAN and a Freightliner dealership. And our current used truck business we've had here in Boksburg, the truck van, we've had that since '98. A little bit of advertising. Okay. Racing was always a distant dream for me until about 2003. And then I went out to Kyalami and I did a BMW advanced driving course. My instructor for the day was Basil Mann, who's a multiple SA Motorsport champion. And I think he does a lot of driver training and so on too. In fact, he's quite a well-known guy in our industry generally. And he was fantastic. We had an M3 for the day, and he showed me all the lines, he showed me all the tricks. We went really fast. He encouraged me, told me not to drive like Miss Daisy. And we were the fastest car there on the day by a country mile, and it was wonderful. So at the end of the day, I sat in the car with him for a moment and I said to him, well, do you think I could ever become a racing driver? And he thought about it for a moment and he said, well, it would take a lot of practice. So I think that was quite a wonderful comment from him, because I was in fact 42 at the time and I'd never driven a race car in my life before. So it would have been very easy for him just to laugh at me and or say to me very kindly, well, I actually think you're too old. So Don's never spoken to him since. I went home and I said to Don, well, actually I'd like to try racing. And it took a lot of persuasion, probably you could say a lot of nagging as well, but eventually he caved in and he said, okay, cool, we'll look for a suitable car. I started out in a Shelby Can-Am, a sports car. At the time they were the fastest sports cars in the country, and it was a national series. And so it was quite a huge challenge for a novice driver, novice racer, and I had to learn a lot, and I had to learn very quickly. So it worked out quite well for me, but it's not the route I would recommend, you know, when you start out in racing, in motorsport. Excuse me. In 2007, I moved on to the West Bank V8. I had a Ford Mustang, and that was quite a huge step at the time, because there'd never been a female driver in West Banks. And at first it was the most macho, hairy-chested national series that we've ever had, because they were the fastest saloon cars, big V8s, loud, noisy. And at first the guys were really quite taken aback to find a female driver on the grid. But once they realized I wasn't going to be a moving chicane, they accepted me. And it was wonderful, because I earned their respect, and we've become very good friends. A lot of them are still our best friends, and in fact we call on them for advice with setup and technical issues quite often. So that was quite a fabulous experience, and I was lucky, because I raced there at the same time as people like Willie Hepburn, Henny Groenewald, Franco Di Matteo, so really some quite legendary drivers, and they were very good, because they shared a lot of their knowledge and advice with me as well. In 2012, we saw the sport of drifting for the first time, and that made quite an impact on us, because a lot of the big sponsors of the big national series circuses had stepped away, like Westbank and Vodacom, and drifting at the time was quite low-key in this country, but we realized it was a sport with a future. But it's a really extreme sport that had its roots in Japan, when young people started to take their powerful cars up the mountains, in the mountain passes, and the aim was to drive sideways all the time instead of straight. And from those illegal street racing routes, it's grown into a global extreme sport with very large international series in the UK, the US, Europe, and Asia. And we thought it was an opportunity for our sponsors as well, because it's very different to normal racing. Everything happens in a small arena. All the action is instant and takes place at once, and it's a bit like racing for the PlayStation generation. So we decided it's also very different to normal motorsport, because in normal racing you want to go straight. If you go sideways, it's slower. And of course, with drifting now, the objective is to always go sideways. And it's also different because it's a judge sport. So you're judged on factors such as your degree of angle. The more angle you have, the better you get, the higher your marks will be. And your accuracy when there are markers on the track that you have to, they're called clipping points, and you have to get really close without actually clipping them. And also you get points for style, lots of smoke, tire smoke, noise, flair. So it's really different to normal motorsport in that regard. So we decided to build ourselves a Mustang drift car. We found a Ford Mustang road car, which was a V6 with an automatic gearbox. And we threw all of that out and we put in a Westbank Ford racing motor, V8, and a Jericho gearbox from a Westbank race car. So basically we built a race car, and all the car wanted to do was actually go straight. So it wasn't made any easier because I, at the time, had no idea how to drive a drift car either. So it was very humbling because I had a lot of pressures. We had to redesign the car on numerous occasions to try and make it work. And I was very tempted many times to just, give it all up and go straight back to circuit racing, where basically I knew what I was doing. But we persevered, and eventually, as you can see, the car, it actually turned out rather well. And we've had a lot of good seasons in the Mustang in our local drifting events. The other thing with drifting, you have proximity is another factor that you're judged on. When there are two cars in tandem, you obviously have to be as close to each other as possible. As you can see. Sorry, I'm not very good at speeches, I still need notes. Bear with me. Okay. And I will get onto transport and trucks eventually, I promise. Okay. I've learned a lot from motorsport. Sorry, where am I? Okay. Of course, with COVID at the moment, and from the main lockdown last year, a lot of motorsports events have been put on hold, including most of the drifting events. I'm quite fortunate, though, that I have also got the opportunity to race in a backdraft Cobra, which we race in the SA Endurance Series. We do a lot of endurance races all around the country at different circuits, and the season culminates with a 9-hour in Cape Town. So that's enormous fun, and I'm looking forward to that. And then I also have a Subaru, a little BRZ, and that we do hill climb and Impala type events with that car. We just did the Simola Hill climbing in Knysna this past weekend. So I'm very fortunate I'm still able to do some racing, although motorsport in general is very low key at the moment, partly because there are no spectators allowed. I learned an enormous amount from motorsport, and there are quite a lot of analogies between motorsport and the industry that we are in. Motorsport is absolutely a team sport. I can be the best driver in the world, but if my team don't give me a car that can work on a certain day at a certain track, I'm not going to be able to win the event. Equally, it's my job to give them the feedback that they need in order to put together and set up the car that it can actually work for me. And it's very much the same in our business, because our goal as a used truck company is to develop long-term relationships with our customers. And the only way we can do that is if we work with our staff as a team, from the wash bay right through the workshop, right through to delivery and sales. We have to analyze the customer's needs, understand what he actually needs, and the right truck will be for the job. And then we obviously have to produce a truck that's going to be reliable and serve the purpose for which it was designed. And then when we, at the time that we're working on all our vehicles, we have to actually have the same attention to detail, if not more, than we would have on a race car. In racing as well, we can have the best car on the day, but we can go into the very first corner of the first event, the first race, and another driver can take us out, and that can be the end of our day. In the same, racing really is all about crash, fix, and repeat, and that's what we pretty much do all the time. And it's the same in business many times. You can, especially as a female, you can focus on doing something and absolutely put your heart and soul into it. You get knocked down, and the only thing you can actually do is get back up, get out there, and persevere and carry on. You can never give up. It's the same with motorsport. A lot of people ask me what it's like to be a female racing driver in a male-dominated motorsport world. And as you can see in this pic, if you look really carefully, you might find me the only female there, and that's pretty much what it's like. But really, it's not very different to it's the same for us, many of us females in the automotive world, because we have to work harder, we have to know more, we have to be more passionate, more dedicated, more committed, and we have to prove ourselves over and over and over again in order to earn respect. And so again, I think there's very little difference between motorsport and the automotive industry, whether it be cars or trucks or transport or sales. In fact, one of the last things that we do have in motorsport is that it's one of the very few sports where male and female competitors compete on an equal playing field. And it's actually very satisfying to know that once you got your helmet on, you're just another competitor on the track, no quarter given or taken. And it's also very much the same, I find, in our business, because often we've got a huge variety of customers. And quite a lot of customers, if I'm the first time I interact with them, they look at me and they think, okay, now obviously she knows nothing about trucks. And people, it's our society. We judge women on appearance and age and looks, and we sort of have preconceptions as to what a woman should know or not know something about. And it's quite difficult in the beginning, but if you once they understand that you actually do know what you are talking about, then it's quite easy. You can move on and you can go beyond the stereotypes, and he stops looking at you and thinking as what does this chick know? And then after that, you have a fantastic relationship with the guy, because then he trusts you and you trust him, and we understand each other. So it can be done. We don't actually have to limit ourselves in any way because of gender or age. And for example, now, I'm 59 now, and I feel like I've got so much to look forward to still. I'm at the top of my racing game. I love what I do. Business is a challenge, but it's a really rewarding challenge. So I think a lot of our limitations are self-imposed in some ways. And I think if we can perhaps look beyond those and allow ourselves, we can actually achieve a lot more. Basil Ryan taught me a wonderful lesson back in the BMW at Kyalami. He realized that although I lacked experience, I had some talent. And by encouraging me, he presented me with an opportunity. Now, I don't think that people have to rely on talent. I think opportunity is far more important in talent, in business, in basically anything in life. A big thing in motorsport is, talent's quite a big word, because if somebody makes a mistake or crashes out or something like that, a lot of people say, oh, he or she ran out of talent. But really, opportunity is far more important than talent, because if you think about our country, we have so much talent out there, and what people lack is an opportunity. And that is actually where we need to focus, because the talent is there in the youth that we have out there. There is so much potential. and what we really need to work on to create opportunities in our industry for people to grow into. Especially women, you know, even more so. Real change always comes from within, and successful women in the transport industry need to lead by example and look out for opportunities not only for themselves but also for other women to progress. In the corporate environment, it's still quite difficult for women to progress because they still have to work harder, do more, prove themselves more in order to progress. And I think we need to work to try and eliminate those sort of boundaries, because the potential is there, and once a woman is given an opportunity, then she usually outshines many of the men in any case. But it's that initial opportunity that is so critical. Just for example, with drivers, a lot of the companies are starting to employ more female drivers simply because they find that they're more reliable, more safety conscious, more dedicated. And it's up to us to also try and eliminate some of the challenges that female drivers, truck drivers in particular, experience now, because although they can operate safely within some urban areas, it's a lot more difficult for them to do national and obviously cross-border travel because of the safety issues involved. It's extremely difficult for a woman to be safe at the moment in transport as a driver. One of the things that I am particularly trying to work on is to encourage more young girls and women to step into our automotive and transport industries. Nowadays, you don't need brain, you need muscle to work on a car or a truck. It's more brain than muscle. And the sort of thing I'd really like to see is that we have in our transport, in our used truck industry, certainly a dire shortage of good auto electricians in the trucking area. And there's absolutely no reason why, when I phone the auto electrician, the person who comes out on a call out with a laptop shouldn't be a woman. We're absolutely capable of it, but I think a lot of young girls and young women, especially school leavers, don't even consider stepping into a technical area like that. And I think that's an attitude we need to change, because I think there's great potential for young people to have good careers and also become entrepreneurs in that area, if we can just persuade more girls to open their minds to something besides the traditional female roles. Motorsport has given me a great platform from which to work, not only in areas such as supporting the Cheetah Centre, as Mariana mentioned, but hopefully, especially as COVID begins to, the restrictions become a little bit eased, then maybe I'll be able to put a little bit more time and effort into addressing schools and working towards getting more young women to consider our industry. Thanks for sharing your time with me, and I hope you've all enjoyed this morning as much as I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Claire.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I know I don't actually fit the profile, but I will bring up. I just want to get this correct slide up here. Okay, seemingly just bunting with the slide. But I'm here to talk on behalf of PIMSA. PIMSA we brought on as the beneficiary for the event. Okay. PINSA, as you saw the banners out there, the abbreviation is for Primary Immune Deficiency Network of South Africa. Now, there's a host of disorders, medical disorders that a lot of families are struggling with. And in my case, although I'm here with wearing my cap, I'm a trainer, so we talk a lot about caps. I'm wearing my cap as assistant organizer. I'm wearing my cap as a PINSA representative. Now, in my family, I have a daughter, which she was born with a rare immune deficiency. And as I said, there's a lot of them. There's about 200 to 300 various immune deficiencies. And the primary immune deficiency is where a person's body doesn't respond to normal infections like the rest of us. Meaning, when we all get colds, common colds and flus, our bodies respond, react, and as we can see with COVID now, your body should be able to keep you healthy. Now with an immune deficient person, you don't have that reaction. So what needs to be done is the person needs to be given additional immunoglobulins to keep them healthy. Now, there's various immunoglobulins. You can have it intravenous. So once a month, the patient has to go into hospital and they get put in a drip for a day. Some sufferers actually sit there for 5 days while it runs in. Unfortunately, you cannot run it too quick because the body reacts if it's introduced with too much immunoglobulin at a time. We've been that route, so we've mastered that and we've moved on to subcutaneous infusion. Here's my daughter, Anandi, coming along. Now, subcutaneous infusion is a way of getting the immunoglobulin into the body, but through injections that is put into the tummy, and based on your volume of immunoglobulin that the body needs to keep you healthy, you might you start off with 1, and then you end up some patients have 6 injections. Now this is a challenge because you have to inject your daughter every time for that. Now this is a challenge that we live with every 2 weeks. So every fortnight we have to give her the injections. It runs in, if we are lucky, with the pump, it runs in, we were lucky once 3 hours, lasted 6 hours. But yes, as I mentioned, every single family out there has got a challenge. This is ours. But this is a way to show that it doesn't matter what challenge you have, you can live a normal life, as normal as possible. She puts on the infusion system, puts on the pump, and we go to town. It beats going to hospital because of all the infections. But again, thank you. So we feel it wise to bring PINSA on board just to ask people, money's tight all over. If you want to sponsor, they do a lot for primary immunodeficiencies. And the challenge we had with primary immunodeficiencies was that when we started out, the doctors didn't know a lot. I always make the joke of I had a couple of doctors fired. Not that you fire a doctor, but you just decide not to go back to them. Because if you tell a doctor that, geez, this is not working, then they'll tell you, you don't know what you're talking about. So it's a challenge, and not a lot of medical specialists know the nitty-gritty about it, not saying that they are not experts. Again, sorry doctors, but there's a very rare, limited amount of doctors that actually specialize in immune deficiencies. Now, to identify an immune deficiency, a lot of people can have it. You see on the banners, if an infection is serious and you cannot get answers, if an infection is persistent, it comes back regularly without answers, if an infection is unusual, if an infection is recurrent, and you can't get answers, go to another doctor, go see a specialist. It could be an immune deficiency. As I said, there's a legio number of different immune deficiencies. Okay? But please, do not sit back. When we started our journey 15 years ago, it was really, no one knew a lot. These days, there's a lot of doctors all over I've been lucky enough to visit Spain with the International Medical Forum. There's a lot of research going on. There's a lot more people being diagnosed, a lot more doctors being exposed to it. So yes, that's what PINSA stands for, and that's what they do. So hopefully you can find it in your heart to give them a sponsor or extra sum of money if you can. On the website, PINSA did give us the banking details, so you please feel free to donate as much as you want to. From my side, thank you, and I'll see you out on the track just now.
Thank you. So now we will finish the program with short questions and answers. If anybody has a question, or if you would like to write the question, and maybe we finish after our practical exercises. I don't know if anybody has a question or want to comment, suggest. Patrick.
Thank you. It's not a question, it's more a comment. I compliment you on this morning's initiative and the organizational. But there is such a need for the voice of women in this industry. They're not listening to men. As I sit here, Beitbridge is once again a total mess. Last week, there were 250 trucks in a queue. At the same time at La Bomba, there was a 27-kilometer long queue. Now, we talk about women going into transport. I don't know if I'd let my son go into truck driving today. The dangers are very real, because when they're sitting out there in those queues, they're getting attacked. There's no food, there's no water, there's no toilet facilities. So are conditions for women good and safe? No.
No.
Not at all.
No.
And I think that's where the women have a voice. We have a lot of initiatives of women in transport and women in trucking. And it's nice until you get to the real issues on the road. Hijacking, crime. The guys don't even stop on the side of the road anymore for fear of being mugged and that. And they're not listening, they're not caring about the men truck drivers. Maybe they're going to care about women truck drivers. Maybe they'll give a bit more attention to it. You know, I know when my wife tells me to do something, I actually do it. Because it's like, and my son or my late dad would tell me to do something, and I'd laugh and go to the pub or whatever. But if my wife tells me, I do it. Because you women have a voice that is very different to the men's voice. But we need to be serious about that voice. Don't play games. People's lives have been lost out there, and there's a lot of work to be done. And so that voice must be strong, it must be serious, it must be taken seriously. And I think a lot of, and I'm going to stop now, what Cassie was saying, you know, very interesting on the way here. We passed a pedestrian with a silver blanket over him on the road. And John is with me. Yeah, he was killed on the way up. And then a car came up behind me at about, must have been about 140. I was doing it, and I saw this guy coming. And I had to get out of his way, you know, and he went like this to me. First time I felt like rage, you know. So irresponsible, negligent driving, and a pedestrian there, just on the way here. I'll see more on the way back. That's the sort of situation out there. I really do think there's a place for a strong woman's voice out there, but serious voice, kick-ass type voice. Okay, kick-ass. That's what I needed to say, and congratulations on today.
Thank you. Anybody else from our national hijacking? I think. Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, people. Welcome from our side. My name is Richard, and before I get started, I was there the day when you drove with Basil around the track. I was one of the co-founders of BMW Advanced Driving. People, I can tell you, she can drive. Okay, not as good as me, but she can drive. go outside, we're going to do a little practical on my part on vehicle hijacking. You know, as a lot of you said, there is a need for ladies in this. There's no female instructors in South Africa that do hijack prevention training. And everybody believes a woman is a bigger target than a man when it comes to hijacking. That is a myth out there. Everything goes around the value attached to the motor vehicle. So forget that myth that a woman is a bigger target than a man, but that will cover around the vehicle. I must honestly say I'm very proud to be here this morning. When I drove here, I thought it's my are going to be scared when I do the talk, although I have got my target lady, the one that does not breathe. There will be a firearm in the practical, only plastic, I'm joking. But it really, thank you for having me here this morning, and I'll see you out there around the motor vehicle. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much, Richard. And Kathy, come here. It would be nice to get you on the camera, Kathy.
Shall I walk at this for a bit? Yeah. Okay, now I can take this off. And I'm going to switch my up one hand.
Yes, you have another one here.
So I think to echo what Pat was saying, truly this is a great initiative, and anything that promotes road safety, I think, is to be embraced.
Yes.
And it's great to see Drivio taking on the challenge.
Yes.
And then I wanted to just mention one more thing. So Jan Clay spoke about Basil. So I haven't told you this, but in 2019, young Basil, myself, and a road crash survivor, Nicole Malk, who was involved in a car crash with her folks. She wasn't wearing a safety belt. So she was in a coma for almost 4 months, in a wheelchair for 6 years, and she's now actively involved in road safety. In fact, you can Google on YouTube, it's Nicole Malk. I should have buckled up. But at 12 years old, I think there's joint responsibility. But young Basil went with us. We flew to Dar es Salaam, and we helped Trafigura implement a road safety campaign. They even wrote a poem to inspire their people, their customers, their service providers, their own people, their own employees to adopt road safety. Then we flew to Lubumbashi, the DRC. I think I must probably be the only South African, and young Basil and Nicole. Oh, by the way, it's the first time she even left the country. Her folks thought I was nuts. To get a passport to go to the DRC, I think her folks must really trust me. Hey, would you let your daughter go to the DRC? I don't know if many people would. And then we drove from Lubumbashi to Ndola. But I wanted to just say, so Basil is a little oakie. So yes, he's very involved in road safety as well. He's part of that particular campaign. So he's also actively driving standards and promoting road safety. So it's a very small community, and your presentation was awesome. But I didn't want to just leave it there. So young Basil is still involved in all those wonderful things. And we've actively gone to other countries to promote road safety as well. And other companies, Trafigura, who obviously are miners, they're involved in copper mines. And so I just wanted to say that we don't stop here. We don't just call it a South African initiative. It's an African initiative. And I want to thank you for this. It's great. And then one thing I want to just mention about Drivio, I'm gonna. So Standard Bank has an incubation hub itself, an innovation hub. And we helped Drivio get started many, many years ago. Our current CEO from one of our divisions, business banking, Suman Cooper, headed up enterprise development. So Standard Bank is actively out there trying to promote best practice, drive standards, because it's a standards bank, and then also to make sure that we can also create opportunities for businesses to grow. But I just wanted to say that, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I think it's a great initiative.
Thank you.
Looking forward to many more.
Many more. Thank you. Do you want to say something?
Hi, I think I have to say this here because I don't think it came out very clearly. But in my short history in South Africa and working in large spheres in government and public sector and stuff like that there, I noticed one thing in this country. The greatest change that was brought about in our government systems and in our biggest companies were brought about by women. If you look at our health sector and if you look at our home affairs, the changes that were brought there were brought by female ministers. And one of the reasons they brought about those changes was because they thought clearly about it, they strategized about it, and they continuously debated why it would or would not work. And most of them stood alone. And they were continuously knocked down because why do you want to change something that doesn't work? We like it when it doesn't work. Right? But they stood up and they said, we're going to change it. And they changed. And if you look at home affairs today, I actually enjoy traveling now because it's so easy to get your passport renewed. It's so easy to pass through customs at the airports and stuff like that because of big changes that were made. Those changes need to happen in transport. Definitely. We can't carry on like this. Queues at border patrols, it's costing us. You know, we work with big state entities around harbors and ports and stuff. The queues there, the costs there. We're actually losing business to our neighboring countries because people do not want to change. So women, as men, as a man, I know we failed in many ways. It's up to you guys to come up to the fore now and make the changes that this country needs for our future generations, because 20 some odd years we failed. So we'll support you from the back, but we need you guys to lead. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So this concludes our guest talks. Thank you so much for joining us if you're online. All the presentations from our esteemed guests will be in our website for more information. And thank you, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One song.
Yeah, you go.
One song for safety.
Go.
Okay, I will say, look your partner next to you, keep distance according to COVID-19 protocol. I'm going to say your safety, my safety. You point the finger to your partner next to you. Your safety, my safety. Say that. Your safety. I don't hear the song. My safety, your safety. You can't say it. Let's start here. My safety, your safety. Say that.
Your safety. My safety, your safety.
My safety, your safety. All of us now. My safety, your safety. Thank you.